Ever wondered what Goliath took from the Nephilim giants? Well, legend has it that he possessed incredible strength and stature, making him a formidable opponent. Some say he inherited their supernatural abilities, giving him an edge in battles. Whether it was size, strength, or something mysterious, one thing is Goliath's legacy is intertwined with the ancient power of the Nephilim giants. Goliath, the infamous giant from the Bible, was believed to be related to the Nephilim giants. These Nephilim giants were said to be the offspring of the fallen angels and human women known for their immense size and strength. Goliath's connection to the Nephilim giants adds a mysterious and an intriguing layer of the already legendary story, making him a figure shrouded in myth and fascination. According to 1 Samuel, Goliath was the Philistine army's most impressive warrior. He was also a man of great height. He was, after all, a giant. However, suspicions over Goliath's ancestry frequently arise. Was Goliath a local Philistine Egyptian, or something else? Although Goliath fought as a Philistine, evidence suggests that he was a member of the Anakim rather than a local Philistine. Before the wilderness journey, Israel dispatched spies to survey the land of Canaan, Numbers 13. When the spies came back, everyone except Joshua and Caleb was shivering in their boots. The main criticism was that the people are of great height and that the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, were present, Numbers 13 verses 32 to 33. The term Nephilim is rarely used, but in the context of Numbers 13, it appears to refer to someone of enormous height. This is the understanding of the ancient Greek and Latin translations, which render the Hebrew word, giants. Even in Genesis 6 verse 4, the writer mentions Nephilim, giants, who lived on the world both then and later. That is, regardless of who the sons of God are in Genesis 6, God wiped out the earth with the flood, and giants repopulate the earth later. Is there any proof connecting Goliath to the Nephilim in Numbers 13? Let's pay attention to Joshua 11 verses 21 to 22. And Joshua came at that time and cut off the Anakim from the hill country, from Hebron, from Debir, from Anab, and from all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua devoted them to destruction with their cities. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of the people of Israel. Only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod did some remain. During the conquest, Joshua and the Israelites drove away the Anakim, and the survivors fled to Philistine territory, notably the cities of Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. So, Goliath was from where? From the city of Gath. Therefore, tracing theological linkages, we arrive at the following conclusions. Numbers 13 describes the Nephilim as giants. Numbers 13 relates the Nephilim to Anak's sons, that is, the Anakim. Joshua 11 indicates that the Anakim were forced into Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. According to 1 Samuel 17, Goliath was from Gath and was a giant. Consequently, it makes obvious sense that Goliath was a descendant of the Anak, who were considered Nephilim giants by the Israelites. These facts and logic also explain the other giants Israel had to contend with. For example, 2 Samuel 21 verses 16 to 22 and 1 Chronicles 20 verses 4 to 8 describes Ishbi-Benob and Saph as descendants of the giants who battle for the Philistines. The same chapter mentions another person named Goliath the Gittite, which is most likely a reference to Goliath's brother, 1 Chronicles 20 verse 5. Gittite is a descendant of Gath, indicating that these giants originated in Philistine land after being pushed there from Judah's hill country. The descendants of Anak, who had been driven from their homes about 350 years before, were ready and eager to support the Philistine armies who had given them refuge, as well as enact vengeance on the Israelites. This appears to be the case with Goliath, his brother, and his fellow giants. Now, let's go back a bit into the ancient time. The Nephilim giants were the first mention of giants in the Bible, appearing in Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4. Though some scholars contended that the sons of God were spirit beings who mated with women to create the Nephilim. The phrase sons of God also alludes to spirit beings or angels. Job 1 verse 6, 2 verse 1, 38 verse 7, and Genesis 6 verses 1 to 2 compares this group with all of humanity, and not just Cain's family, implying that they are non-human. The popular belief that this was the result of combining Seth and Cain's lines presupposes that everyone in Seth's line was divine, and everyone in Cain's line was wicked. The text never makes this assertion. Furthermore, competing perspectives including the kingly line theory fail to explain how this wedding created powerful giant warriors. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Genesis 6 verse 4. It is worth noting that Genesis 6 verse 4 never directly refers to the Nephilim as giants. However, the Nephilim have long been seen as giants due of Numbers 13 verses 32 to 33's depiction of the giants in the region as those descended from the Nephilim. In Genesis 6 verse 4, the Septuagint translates the Hebrew words, Nephilim, and Gibberim, mighty men or men of renown, as gigantes, giants. The Septuagint may have interpreted Nephilim as giants, based on the narrative in Numbers 13, while some believe Nephilim is derived from the Aramaic word Naphiela, meaning giant. It is unclear whether Nephilim descendants were actually in Canaan, as the Israelite spies' accounts may have been exaggerated. However, exaggeration is doubtful because Genesis 6 verse 4 states that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, and the connection between the Anakim and the Nephilim in Numbers 13 verse 33 appears to be an editorial comment, perhaps pointing back to Numbers 6 verse 4. At the very least, the allegation in Numbers 13 verse 33 demonstrates that the Israelites were aware of the Nephilim's renown as giants in ancient times. In Genesis 6, God sent a flood to destroy aggressive humanity, including the Nephilim, who are referred to as all flesh, Genesis 6 verses 12 to 13. God continued the human race through Noah, a new Adam untainted by Nephilim blood. Noah's straight pedigree is recounted all the way back to Adam, Genesis 5 verses 1 to 32, and he is stated to be blameless in his generations, Genesis 6 verse 9, presumably referring to his pure line. Note the plural, generations. Despite the flood, giants finally returned and settled in Canaan. Numbers 13 is an important scripture about giants in Canaan. When Israel fled Egypt and was in the wilderness, hoping to enter the promised land, Moses dispatched 12 Israelite spies, one from each tribe to Canaan. The spies were supposed to scout the region and determine whether the people who dwell in it are strong or weak, Numbers 13 verse 18. The spies returned to Moses after 40 days with a positive report about the land. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit, Numbers 13 verse 27. However, they offered a negative evaluation about the inhabitants of the land. However, the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and vast. Besides, we observed Anak's descendants there. The Amalekites live in the land of Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. And the Canaanites live by the sea and along the Jordan, Numbers 13 verses 28 to 29. Caleb, one of the spies, pushed Israel to go up and seize the land, but the other scouts, save Joshua, stated they couldn't since the locals were stronger, Numbers 13 verses 30 to 31. Then the bad report became even worse. The area through which we traveled to check it out is one that devours its residents, and all of the individuals we saw there are tall. And there we beheld the Nephilim, Anak's sons who descended from the Nephilim, and we appeared to ourselves like grasshoppers, as they did to us, Numbers 13 verses 32 to 33. The spies lacked faith and were rightfully chastised for it. Israel was forced to roam the wilderness for 40 years, 1 year for every day of spying, causing the adults to die out. God even used a plague to kill the 10 unfaithful spies, leaving only Caleb and Joshua alive, Numbers 14 verses 20 to 38. However, what we are concerned about here is the report of giants in the land. Was their report accurate? If this is the case, it helps to explain why the spies were so afraid. While it is likely that the spies exaggerated their descriptions of the inhabitants in the land, this exaggeration should be restrained. This is because Moses confirms the spies' account in Deuteronomy 9 verses 1 to 2, where he says that Israel would cross the Jordan to dispossess nations greater and mightier than you, cities great and fortified up to heaven, a people great and tall, the sons of the Anakim, whom you know, and of whom you have heard it said, who can stand before the sons of Anak? Deuteronomy 1:28-10. The people of the area, especially the Anakim, were tall and mighty. But who were the Anakims, really? They were descended from a man named Anak, who had 3 sons, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, Joshua 15 verse 14, Judges 1 verses 10-20. Joshua later destroyed the Anakim, leaving only Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod, Joshua 11 verses 21-22. 1 Samuel 17 verse 4 states that Goliath was from Gath, implying that he was a descendant of Anak. Caleb is reported to have driven out the Anakim from Hebron, Joshua 14 verse 12, 15 verse 14, Judges 1 verse 20, a city that was previously known as Kiriath-Arba, named after Arba, who was the greatest man among the Anakim, Joshua 14 verse 15, Judges 1 verse 10. If the giants in the country descended from the Nephilim, how did this occur after the Nephilim were wiped out in the flood? While others claim that the flood was just local, this is an improbable interpretation given that it was designed to wipe off the Nephilim in Genesis 6. Thus, there are 2 plausible explanations. 1. The similar incident occurred later in history, when spirit beings bred with women to generate more Nephilim. 2. Nephilim genes were passed down through Noah's daughters-in-law. These spouses of Ham, Shem, and Japheth were not descended from Noah, hence they may have had Nephilim genes. Thank you for your support.